Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Workplace Delight. And this will probably also publish on the Superpower Quest Superhumans newsletter as well. And today I get the joy. That's a very carefully chosen term. I get the joy to meet with my friend Jenn Whitmer, who is a speaker, consultant, and joy bringer. That's her title. It's in the title. Joy in the title. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Excited to chat with you.
Yeah, we always have high energy conversations. It's this will be a fun one today. So when I asked you what's one thing that you want people to know about you, you said I want my life to be a musical. So please elaborate on
It's
your
true.
life of a
I really
musical.
just need them to know that I'm not like when I just start singing randomly, it's not because I've planned it. When people are like, musicals aren't real, nobody just breaks into song in real life. And I'm like, have you haven't spent more than 5 minutes with me.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. So you're gonna break into song at some point.
At some point, I mean, like I can't plan when that will
You
happen. It
can't plan it.
just happens. Like
You
I
can't plan it.
don't.
Do you sing for real?
I actually, my very first real career, quote unquote, when I graduated from college, was a vocal music teacher. So I taught kindergarten through eighth grade music and loved it. It was a great job, super fun. And I did that until I had three kids in 3 years and needed to be at home for a little bit, not on a teacher's salary.
Mm,
So, yes.
yeah. What did you so what did you love about that?
Oh, there's so many components of teaching music that I loved. First of all, I got to see every kid in the building. So I wasn't just with, I mean, there are benefits to having just a small group every year, but I got to see every kid in the building for multiple years. So I got to see them grow and change over time
Yep.
from these little awkward, kindergartners to the baby giraffe stage where they repeat it all again in seventh grade. And it was so fun. I mean, I loved that. And so I got to see them grow. I got to grow with them. And then I also loved introducing them to a different way of thinking and learning because music is a literacy, it is a cultural component. There is just joy of singing together. There are so many different aspects of music that I loved teaching
Yeah.
students and them engaging with it. It's such a part of the day where they just engage differently. And
Yeah.
for some kids, it's the only part of the day that makes sense. For other kids, it is like, oh, I don't have to sit for, and it's just a beautiful part of the day. There's an old poem that I always get wrong. I should learn it, but it is one should read something beautiful every day, say a poem every day, sing a song every day, and see the birds every day, or something like that. I'm not
Yeah.
quoting it correctly, but so it was the moment I could share that with students and with kids and as they grew. And I had one kid randomly, I had him in sixth grade, my very first year of teaching. Like 10 years later, he ended up showing up randomly at my church and like as a visitor, and he recognized me and he's like, oh my gosh, Mrs. Whitmer, you know those things that you used to make us listen to, because they had to, like, we did wide variety of music tests of like, what song is this, and from different genres and histories, and he's like, now I listen to all that stuff.
Yes. You
Like,
won.
that was the goal.
Yes. Oh, so
So,
cool.
very fun. That's part of what I loved about it.
So as I'm watching you talk, right, and I'm watching you, and I can imagine you being an incredible teacher. Like and so much appreciation for what it takes to be a good teacher. My wife is a teacher. She teaches
Mhm.
high school rhetoric,
Oh yeah,
and she's flipping amazing.
Mhm.
Um, but the pay definitely doesn't reflect the the performance.
Correct.
And often even the red tape and the things that she has to conform to and actually strategically opts out of conforming to at times. Like I don't think people understand uh, what it takes to be good at that job and how much is working against you.
Yeah. It's an art and a science, and both of those things matter because there are how adult learners learn and how young children learn and how middle schoolers learn. There is a through line, there is a commonality in the way people learn, but yet learning how each of those different developmental stages, because adults go through developmental stages as well, impacts the way they access information and then integrate the information so they
Yep.
can then use the information, is there is so much science to that.
Yeah.
And there is an art to
Yeah.
being able to adjust on the fly, to play a little jazz with the room as I do as a speaker now with adults. Same
Yeah.
thing. You know, there are some days like the weather's off, there's a storm coming in and kids go, and it's a full moon. I mean, if
Yeah.
you have young children, you know exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, or if you teach. You know, like it's just you can't do what you planned. And so you've gotta just flip something, and that's the art that comes with practice and
Yeah.
learning. And it's the same in front of an audience now as adults, like, oh, there's something in the room I gotta adjust to help them, with the ultimate goal of them taking the information home and applying it, because that's always what I still want,
Yep.
even as a speaker. So
Yeah.
it's fun.
So you're an artist and a scientist
Yes.
to a degree, right? Because you care about both. You care about the magic and you care about the the test tubes and the
Hmm.
beakers and whatnot. Um, so something I say often is that we give the gift we were given, right? Like I think the people that are the most magnetic and the most passionate about what they do are, it's often because they're giving the gift that they were given. So joy. Tell me about joy, because you obviously have joy and you give joy. So where'd you get it?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think first, before I talk about where I get it, I want us all to be on the same page about what joy is.
Okay.
Because a lot of a lot of us think about, well, let me tell a short story. So my husband's favorite event of all times in St. Louis is the Great Forest Park Balloon Race. And if you've ever been to a balloon race, it's these giant hot air balloons that literally are just racing to the sky. But the night before in St. Louis is the balloon glow, where all of the balloons fill Forest Park, which is an enormous park, bigger than Central Park in New York. I have
Oh
to say
wow.
that. And it's nighttime and they light up. So these giant globes of silk are full of fire, and it's just beautiful. And one year we were going with our kids because we have 4 kids. They are all finally old enough to, like schlep and carry, and we're in major traffic. It doesn't matter that we've got a picnic. It doesn't matter we're going to go see the balloons. Everybody is now all out of sorts. And I am like trying to hang on to this by positive vibes alone. Like, it's going
Yeah.
to happen. It's going to be great, you guys. Like I'm just holding on to dear life.
Yeah.
And as we're going down the hill with our wagon and the kids and whining, and all of a sudden this woman just walks across and face plants and trips over our wagon. And not even, I mean, the balloons are not enough to sustain that. Just, it was
Yeah.
over. And I think of joy as overcoming and existing because we get through moments like that. Joy is not outsourced to something. Like, we couldn't outsource our joy to the balloons. Balloons float away, they pop, they deflate.
Yeah.
Cotton candy is really fun. It's light on the tongue, but it dissolves.
Yep.
Real joy has deep roots, and
Yeah.
roots form in the dark. And
Yeah.
so that rooted place of joy um, is where I was given that in difficult situations. I think the gift of optimism, which goes with joy, but it's not the same,
Yep.
that being able to find something good out of difficulty, I don't know where I got. I don't know. I think it was a gift, just something that I
Yeah.
was born with. Mostly because I don't want pain, so I'm happy to reframe something like, well, at least. So I think there's good and
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
shadow side to that.
Yeah.
But I think the real joy I have is knowing that joy is connected to purpose,
Mm-hmm.
that life is meaningful, and that it connects us to other people. And I think that probably came through some amazing teachers that I had in school. I can think of Mrs. Amar, my gifted
Yeah.
teacher at elementary school. I can think of Dr. Epley, who was one of my professors, my music ed professor in college, who it was never about just the thing in front of you. There was always something deeper about purpose. And those classes were hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was just this is just ice skating through life and it's simple, although ice skating is hard. So I probably shouldn't use that as an example.
Yeah.
But, like, just like, it wasn't easy. And it was still joyful because it was connecting to people. It was connecting to
Yeah.
something more than me. It was connecting to purpose and changing others. And so those moments, even in deep grief,
Yeah.
even my my father-in-law died tragically when we were 22 in a plane crash.
Yeah.
And moving through that time, I'm like, I would never not let myself feel joy. Like, would
Mm-hmm.
never restrict that. So why am I restricting this grief? Which
Mm-hmm.
is what then allowed me to connect with the other people missing Tony and grieving Tony, and that connection to other people, and what did his life mean for us, and like back to that purpose idea. And all of those things are actually deep joy, because joy bests fear. Joy builds resilience. Joy, understanding how you connect with others and how you connect to purpose, and that there is something greater than you that is impacted by what's happening in front of you. All of those things
Yeah.
help us get through really difficult times.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I resonate with that. There are times when I'm having a feeling and I couldn't separate the joy from the grief,
Mm,
actually,
yeah.
because they're both happening and they're both informing each other. And it's hard to even describe that to other people or
Hmm.
explain that to other people, that there are moments of deep pain for me that are also deep joy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I would say
And
probably, yeah, they're connected to purpose.
yeah, they're connected to, like, things that are difficult doesn't mean it can't be joyful. Even painful emotions that we don't want to experience.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that a death is joyful at
Yeah.
all, but what comes out of that, those roots that are built. So I always think of joy more like lavender, because it
Yeah.
spreads. It's a little wild. It
Yeah.
grows in soil that's kind of rocky, a little acidy,
Yeah.
and its roots are incredibly deep, actually.
Yeah.
And so those moments build joy, this deep connection that is, um, a happiness that is bigger than the moment.
Yeah. You're a storyteller. Man, you got
Yeah.
the good storytelling voice, and I can tell, man, you're excellent in the craft. Um, so tell me a little bit. Oh gosh, there's some. Am I going to say this? Yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going to connect back to your idea. Actually, this is. I'm going to connect back to your idea of joy in suffering.
Mm.
I've got a friend who his name's Joshua Aranda. He's an ultra runner.
Oh, bless him.
He just got done running 350 miles in 6 days. This dude and I was talking to him and we were having a deep conversation. And he was telling me like the sense of calling that he has. He has the sense of calling to seek out the hardest things
Mm,
in life, so that he can be qualified to walk through others and guide others into the hardest thing that they've ever done.
yeah.
Right?
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
man, it was, and I'm like looking at this dude. I'm like, oh, dude, I see you, right? And
Yeah.
then and he's talking about suffering, and it's challenging, right? Because I avoid suffering. I don't like that.
100%. Let me just run the other
Yeah,
way. Thank you very
yeah.
much.
And I looked at him and I was like, you like it, you enjoy it. And he thought for a second. And he was like, yeah. There is that's an extreme case,
Yeah.
but it's so tied to purpose for him,
Hmm. Well,
right?
it's another great example of joy. While joy is a universal feeling,
Hmm.
and actually the reason joy is vulnerable is what I'm going to say next, is because it's so connected to your very being.
Yeah,
So I would
yeah,
never, I mean, I ran a 5K once. Thank you very much. That was enough. I never again. But my greatest joy is when I am in front of a group of people and we are having this. I mean, people call it a keynote or a workshop,
yeah,
but it is a group experience of us together that will never happen again in another way, where we walk away different. It is a transformative experience. I love that.
yeah,
I have never met a microphone I didn't like. Like,
yeah,
I'm just like,
yeah,
I love it. It's so much fun. We're doing these things together. That would be the worst I mean, literally my mother. I have my mom's worst nightmare and it is my dream job. I say that all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah, like it's my dream job, worst nightmare.
Yeah.
But that's why joy is so vulnerable, because it's saying this is actually what I love at my core
Yeah.
because of how it helps other people.
Yeah.
That's incredibly vulnerable, which is why teenagers are like, I don't know. I don't know if I can be happy. I don't know if I can share the joy. They just get all freaked out and awkward about it because
Yeah.
it's so much being seen. And
Yeah.
that's why it's scary. And
Yeah.
adults too. It's just easier to see it in a teenager. We think that we hide it better. Not really. But teenagers, they don't hide it well at all.
No, no, not at all. I will say that that's a little bit of a light bulb moment for me. I don't know that I've ever made that tie between joy and identity.
Mm,
But I think you're right, right? Like joy is a manifestation of your true identity, and I can't have someone else's joy, right? Like, and so I'm listening to my friends speak about the joy of suffering, and at first I'm comparing, and I'm thinking,
yes.
oh, is there something wrong with me? Like,
Oh, yeah.
man, maybe I should be more like that, right? And then there's a moment where I consciously shifted in my mind and was like, nah, bro, you're not. Don't even try. You're not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
Like, but you can be this guy who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, yeah, one of the things he said in the conversation was, man, Johnny, nobody's asked me questions like this before. It's because I'm me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I'm not, and my joy comes from a completely different place than his joy would come from, or that yours would come from,
Absolutely.
right? Because it's tied to
One of
identity.
the other components of joy, especially when we're talking about joy at work, it is but it gets really clear when you talk about this at work, is that you feel favored or fortunate,
Mm-hmm.
but not by comparison. So my Uncle Mark used to run an oil rig. And so if you don't know what an oil rig is, it's like running a small city with multi-billion-dollar equipment that if you mess up, people die. And so it's,
Dang.
no pressure. And Mark would say things like, you know, living the dream, at least I got a job, that's comparison.
Yeah.
That's saying, well, at least I'm not doing this other thing.
Yeah.
But then if you would talk to him a little bit more, you'd ask him questions, talk about a storyteller. Oh my gosh. Anyway, he would tell you stories about, what happens on the rig and the community that they built. He'd tell you about the sunsets on the Gulf of Mexico. He would tell you about helping West Africans learn how to run their own oil rigs after colonialism is like pulling out so they could have their own
Yeah.
sustainable industry. And at the end, any of those stories, when you'd start
Yeah.
to dig in, he'd say something like, how does a farmer's kid from Tyne, Missouri get to do that?
Yeah.
That's being favored or fortunate,
Yeah.
not by comparison. And so I
Right.
think that's the other key component. And so when you think about your work, sometimes we do that like, well, at least I have something. And there are moments of people's lives where you're like, at least I have something. That is a very real thing.
Yeah.
And when you're digging deeper into joy, what are the components of your work that like, oh my gosh, I hope they never take this away from me. Do they
Yeah.
know that I get to do this? It's like, ooh, you
Yeah.
almost feel like there's almost a guilt to it
Yes,
because
I know. Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, is this really real? That is feeling favored or fortunate, but not by comparison. And
Yeah.
then you don't fall into the trap of, well, my joy's not as good as their joy, or what I'm doing is not as important, or whatever. Like it comes to you.
Yes. All right. So one of my questions in this first phase of the interview is what are you obsessed with? It's obvious that you're obsessed with joy. I think we've already answered that question, right? And then origin story. So tell me a little bit about your journey into your current career and stage of life.
Yeah. So the other thing that matches this obsession comes a lot from this story because it's not just joy, it is how do we work together?
Yeah.
Because the things that often steal our joy is because we are not working well together. And so you've already learned that I was a music teacher. And then I went on, after staying home for a little while, I was a school administrator. So I was a school leader. And I was loving this. It was such a fun job. And I got to coach teachers. I got to teach teachers. I still got to be in the classroom a little bit with kids. And I was really shaping some of the things that people really hate about school, which
Yeah.
was report cards. conferences and standardized testing. And so I got
Yeah.
to shape those into ways that meant they weren't quite as scary. They were
Yep.
really meaningful, and they could actually even be joyful. And so like we did some of that work. And then we had a change of leader who was unskilled and unhealed, had
Yeah.
some old trauma, some old pain that in his own leadership that didn't, he just hadn't dealt with. And started to realize things were different, but it was such a slow, um, poison is probably the best word. Like it's
Sure.
slow drips. And a lot of people think that abusive work environments and toxic work environments are full of a lot of people yelling and throwing chairs, but
Mm.
that is not typical. The more common experience is they avoid conflict. There's a lot of gaslighting, a lot of, uh, well, we made this decision, but we're going to change it. This a lot of lack of clarity, confusion, where you start to think, what's wrong with me? Am I crazy? Like those are moments where it's not just because somebody is loud and obnoxious,
Yep.
though that does happen.
Yep.
That is the atypical experience of a toxic work environment. It's much
Yep.
more like, well, we're starting to monitor you. We're going to do like those kinds of things that make it like you feel like you're being watched, and you like by the standard you're doing your job, but nobody seems to be telling you what's going on. Anyway, this is what
Yes.
started to happen for us, and
Right.
it was awful. And I knew we left this team meeting, and I was like sitting on my van talking to my friend in the parking garage, and I'm like, I'm getting fired. This is what's happening. And she's like, if you're getting fired, it's because our culture has fallen apart, mostly because of conflict. And
Yeah.
she was right. And because I was like, I don't fit. I'm
Hmm.
This is what's happening. And a week later, that is what happened. And but also then ended up getting rehired in the same meeting for a different role. It was all like, if that doesn't tell you, all the HR people are freaking out right now. Uh,
Yeah.
it, if that doesn't tell you the lack of clarity and insanity that this place was at that moment. And finally ended up leaving about 6 months later, and didn't know what I wanted to do because teachers were like, well, you go back to school. So when I got fired and rehired for this weird role, I decided to go back to school and started studying communication and culture and modalities of learning and how cultures work together and how people work together. And I didn't know that speaking was a job.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. And so I started, eh, luckily, I mean, just really blessed to had somebody who was like, hey, we're struggling in our office. Can you help us? And I was like, yes, I can. This is because I'd done some training in conflict resolution and started studying the Enneagram, and just started
That's
speaking
cool.
around and
Yeah.
helping people, and started then developing like, oh, this is like a business. You can do this for work. And
Because you were
so that is,
successful at doing the thing. You go
yeah,
in and you do the thing and it works.
it worked.
Right.
Yeah. Like all of this experience and knowledge of coaching and teaching adults and students, going back to school and learning a different perspective on culture and how we work together. uh, I had really started originally on conflict resolution, and then in my study of personality. So if you've never heard of the Enneagram, I said that word earlier.
Yep.
The Enneagram is a personality framework that shows us the deep whys of why we think, act, and feel the way we do. And I was really starting to notice how much the Enneagram played into conflict, and started seeing that, oh my gosh, conflict is just the presenting injury that people don't know how to do. There's
Yep.
much deeper work in creating joy at work in the way that we work together, because people are so complex that it can't just be one thing. So I started doing this bigger work around, well, how do then you create a work environment, a positive work environment, by actually dealing with all the complex people that you work with, not the email system that you use, not like who gets to be the integrator and the vision, that's
Yeah.
great. You need those things. That's just not what I do. I'm going to help you work better together, so you actually are connected to purpose. You communicate well with each other. You engage in really positive ways, and you have an experience that is built on really solid practices and play that bring productivity and into your workplace. So that's how
Wow.
I started and moved on.
Man, that's a beautiful journey.
There's a lot of roots in there of yuck.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting, isn't it? How that pain also becomes purpose.
Hmm.
Um, that's the same for me. If I was to, bare my soul and tell you my life story, it starts with, a pretty painful
Yeah.
upbringing and that produced a pretty painful opinion of myself.
Mm.
Right. But getting past that is the gift I have to give to other people. Right. Like
Yep.
it's interesting how pain deeply informs that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about um, what you're doing now. So this is more on the workplace delight side.
Yeah.
You bring joy, and I'm gonna let me put some words to it. You said conflict. There's a conflict resolution piece. There's a healing of cultures piece. It sounds like.
Mhm.
How do we work together better was one of the ways that you put it. Like, so you help people in teams connect to purpose through connecting to purpose. So that's a key word that I hear. Um, and then this is even from earlier. Some of the tools. I don't even know if these are tools, but the words that you use, uh, connection and transformation.
Mhm.
So some of your greatest joy comes from deep connection with groups.
Mhm.
But then you also love to see transformation happen in individuals and in groups.
Yeah.
So am I cataloging the gifts pretty
Yeah,
well?
you're saying all of the things.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
So
yeah, yeah,
I when I go in to help people, I think one of the biggest things that I'm doing is when I talk about joy at work, people often are like, "Well, that's nice if you can get it. We got to get my work done." Like
yeah,
I got to be productive. I got to do the thing. That's
yeah,
that's what people think. But what they come to me for is they're like, "We're really struggling. We're not communicating well together." Or everybody just feels like work is a slog. And like, "Oh my gosh, we had this great team and now we've doubled and things aren't working anymore."
yeah,
Or, "Oh, we reorganized and now we have a new team of people and there's some personality clashes happening and we don't like those are the problems that they're having. They don't connect those as problems that are actually lack of joy
yeah,
because they're putting the wrong thing in the center.
yeah,
So when we think of culture, the image I like for you to have in your head is water, because culture at its kind of most basic is the way we flow together, the way we work together, the way we flow together. That's culture. Culture is not a ping pong table. Culture isn't your HR management system.
right,
It's like culture is the way we work
right,
together. And
right,
so water makes a lot of sense for that. And so I like to bring, rather than a river that flows wherever it wants to go and it avoids hard conversations, it
hmm,
just kind of follows the path of least resistance, and which makes things difficult and some places really dry and dusty. And we've all
yeah,
experienced what that feels like.
yeah,
I want you to think of culture as an aqueduct, which, if you don't remember what an aqueduct is, it takes water from a source and brings it exactly where it wants to go.
yeah,
And what upholds an aqueduct is an arch. And in the center of that arch is the keystone that if you take it apart, everything falls down. Like if you take out the keystone, it all falls apart. And that's what joy is. And we've put the wrong keystone in place. We have put profit and money in the
yeah,
center.
yeah,
And I think that the purpose of a business is to solve a problem. And when we say like, well, isn't our job to make a profit? I think, if I'm going to be really bold, that sounds a lot like greed.
yeah,
And I don't think that's who we are.
yeah,
I think we're people who want to solve problems for other people. And if you solve problems, people pay you. Like, I'm really happy to pay the electric company so this thing works. Like,
yes,
please, because I
yeah,
do not know how to go out there and do whatever it takes to make energy come into my house. I don't know. I am really happy that farmers get beans and they sell them to bushes to put them in a can so they come to my house. Like, I don't know how to do that. I am happy to pay you for that.
yeah,
That's the problems that they're solving. But
yeah,
we don't think of business like that anymore because
yeah,
of a whole host of things that I'm not going to get into. So when we replace the keystone of, "Oh, I'm just supposed to be here to make money," but
right,
what if the keystone is that we get joy by solving problems for other people through purpose? That changes everything.
Woo! Say
If
that again, please. Say that one more
if we
time.
replace the keystone with we get joy by solving problems for other people because that's purpose, we feel joy in that, that changes everything. And that joy, then I'm like, oh, well, now I got to work with this guy over here and it's sandpaper city because every time I say this, he interrupts me in a meeting. Well, now we got to talk about communication skills. And
Right.
now we got to talk about how do we engage with other people. So that's there's all these different topics that we do have to get. We do need to talk about self-awareness.
Yeah.
What do I value? My mindset, how do I talk about things? All of that exploration into self and others. You got to do that. But it's all fun and dandy when you're by yourself. Like I'm amazing until I have to engage with somebody else. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, now I'm feeling this because you said this and now I'm mad. And oh, we have to figure out how do we engage together? How do we make good
Yeah.
decisions together? How do I control my emotions? And then, well, how do we then create habits and practices? So on those bad days, when crap happens, because it does, what's going to uphold us? And that's building a really an employee experience around those things. So those are the different components of work that I do when I'm helping other people. And when that happens, people that have come and are like, oh, we have this new team and they just can't figure out how to get along. They suddenly then, it's not so much about who has what title. It's like, oh, when I ask you this question, you thought I meant this. And now we know how to work together. And I know
Yeah.
to ask it this way and you know to ask me this way. Or, gosh, we were fighting over Slack. Well, let's stop that and pick up the phone. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or we didn't have a structure. So every time we ended a meeting, I had no idea what I was supposed to do and what you were supposed to do. So some things got duplicated and other things didn't. Well, now we know because we have this great structure in place and
Yeah.
that we can get to purpose.
Yeah.
And so that's when I'm helping people, what often they say at the end. They're like, oh, if we didn't, now it's so much more joyful because we know how
Right.
to work together. We know how it's connected to purpose, and our values aren't just these things that are up on the wall. They're acted out every day in the way that we connect together.
Yeah. That is amazing. I'm going to say that statement you said one more time just for my own self. We get joy. Help me say this right. We get joy by solving problems for other people connected to purpose. I think
Mhm.
that's how you said that's
Something like that. So Jade Simmons, I cannot take this. It is the best Jade Simmons quote of all times. If you don't know who Jade Simmons is, she's a classical pianist who also raps on stage and is an amazing keynote speaker.
yeah.
And she talks about purpose. And in her book, Purpose, the Remix, she talks about purpose isn't the thing that you do. It's not the activities. It's not the thing that you do. It's what happens in other people when you do what you do. So your
Yeah.
friend, what happens in other people when he helps them get through suffering is the resilience and they get through suffering. When you ask great questions, that's the activity. But then you draw out the magic of other people, that's purpose. And so when we're talking about what a business does or what you individually do in your purpose, that is how we're solving problems for other people. In the
Yeah.
marketplace, we call it solving a problem,
Yeah.
and then there's a value added to it. But the purpose is what it creates in other people. I had one
Absolutely.
client who they were like, I mean, I don't know how I connect to purpose. And he is a financial institution that really supports low income places.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happens if they don't have the financial support and grants that you provide? He's like, they don't pay rent. They don't have gas in their car. I was like, that's a pretty big purpose
Yeah.
to provide basic needs for people. And like people just don't see that all the time because your brilliance is often hidden in your blind spots. You don't even
Yes.
see it. And so when you as a human or as an organization decide, okay, here's what we do to help people, and that's where joy comes back into the center. Like
Sure,
that's
for
our
sure.
job. That's the keystone. That upholds this arch that holds the aqueduct. So now we flow better together rather than these dry, dusty parts because, Whoozy Whatser forgot to, hit send in this, project management system thing and everybody's upset. Well, it's so much bigger than that. Yes, we have to solve those problems, but it's so much bigger about why
Woo.
it matters.
So I imagine that the people that come to you, your people, right? Like the people you serve,
Hmm.
um, one of the motivators for them coming to you and being willing to pay you to come in and help them swap in the right keystone,
Mhm.
right, is probably extreme duress, extreme. I mean, often. I'm not saying
Yeah.
only, but I'm saying is that some of what you get is people that are like, we got an impossible situation here.
It's funny. I think most times people are coming before then. There
Mm-hmm.
are a few that are like, oh my gosh, this has gone off the rails.
Yeah.
I would say most people are coming because they missed the top places to work. And they're like, I really thought we were a top place to work. And
Whoa.
we missed the thing. Like they like
Crazy.
feel it, or oh my gosh, this has been awesome. We got 15 new clients. We had to hire this new staff. And now we used to be able to work together and now we can't. Or, they're having to deal with what are the realities of a hybrid work environment. We're kind
Yeah.
of back in the office. We're kind of not. The way we work together isn't flowing anymore. And those are often the things that happen
That
when
makes
they're
sense.
like, I don't, it's just
Yeah.
off. And or they're like, oh my gosh, we've had 3 people who are our top performers leave. And in exit interviews, they've said it's because of, XYZ that are all culture reasons that are things that they're like, we've got to fix this because our retention is down. Or they've done an employee engagement score and they actually want to do something with the survey.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, our engagement scores are down and we're seeing it in our productivity. Those are the reasons they say that they come. They just don't
Yeah.
know that it's because it's joy, it's communication, it's decision making and values.
Well, it's interesting because most of those use cases are not the use case that I thought, right?
Mm.
But that kind of does make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because if we're just in full blown toxicity, there's there's often a level of unawareness
Yes.
in that, and a level of pride also, to be honest,
Mhm.
which is like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, so why do I need help? Because
Totally.
I'm fine.
I mean, I've definitely said I'm not your person
Yeah.
because they're like, and so it was a couple different organizations. Basically, they're like, no, you just come in and teach the people. Like the leadership team's not going to be there. And I was like, mm I'm sorry. Help me understand. And they would say, well, we're not having the problem. They're having the problem. And we could not get around that. I was like, you need to hire a different consultant. I'm not going to
Yeah.
be able to help you if
Yeah.
you're not willing to fully participate in
Right.
what we're doing. Um, and I am happy to let that go because it
Yeah.
won't work.
Right. Right. You're not willing to do things that don't work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that doesn't bring joy.
No. And it also, I mean, people will in the audience, they're like, oh yeah, here we go again. It's like initiative fatigue. We're
Hmm.
gonna here's the thing that we have to fix again. Why aren't they getting this training? Why aren't they the ones
Right.
getting this training? So there's that. And then also my reputation in the marketplace. Well, we brought her in but didn't change anything. Well, yeah, because you didn't do it.
Right.
They can't
Yeah.
say that.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's a lot easier up front to say, no, thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit more about who comes to you? Like, because the person that's watching this or that encounters this video,
Yeah.
I'd like them to be able to also understand if what they're going through is the type of
Yeah.
pain, you know,
Yeah, I
who
would
comes to you?
say it falls into a couple different buckets. One is workplaces that are already understand that people are really their most valuable asset and they just want to get better at it. And there may have been some small transitions, some small changes, and they really want to understand their people and continue to grow. So there's
Yeah.
those people. They're like, we've got our values. Jen, you and I, we connect over values. This is great. Let's just keep going. They're like, we just want to keep getting that 1% better. Let's go.
Yep.
So that's one kind of group. Another group are people who they're the team leader, they might be the HR manager or the training director, and they are seeing this need because gosh, we've got these leaders and managers who have been promoted, but they don't have any training to lead or manage. They were amazing accountants or graphic designers
Yeah.
or whatever their subject matter expertise was, but leadership is an entirely different skill set and they don't have any training for that. So can you come and train our leaders? Do you have something for us to help us develop our leaders and managers? Because They know that the reason people leave a job is because of a manager most of the time.
Yeah.
And that a manager has so much influence over the daily life of the employees that it's just as much, actually more, than your doctor.
Yeah.
So they want to help their managers. And then the third group are the ones that are like, we're struggling. Like, we are like, productivity is down.
Yep.
People, the slog is here. It's getting dicey. There's some conflicts here that we want to stop. It's not usually in full blown toxicity. I will send you to somebody else if you want like mediation. That
Yeah.
is not my jam. I
That's
did
different.
that and
Yeah.
I was like, no, thank you.
Yep.
So if you're over there, I'm going to send you away. But if you're like, we really want to fix this. We know we've got good people, but we just need the skills and some resets on how do we work together. Those are the other groups that bring me in. So I tend to work with small to medium-sized businesses. And when I say that, the US defines small business as anything under 500. I'm usually working in some place that's closer to like 250 or below. I absolutely can do the bigger groups. I just typically that size company is what brings me in.
Yep.
Happy, Google, if you'd like. Happy.
Yeah.
Come in. Pepsi, I'm here for you. Disney, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm ready. But that's
Yeah.
typically who is bringing me in. Or it is a small team inside a much larger organization. So like Intuit has brought me in for a couple teams, or so it's a large organization, but there's a team of something, like the marketing team comes together, or this was a coding team that came together and Intuit that was new. Again, 20 people, new team, bringing together. So those are the types of people that end up bringing me in.
That's so perfect and very, very concrete. So thank you for that. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah. And then, as we're starting to wind down and come towards, come to time, uh, what's going on with you? What are you excited about right now? So like, what's the future looking like for you? What are the opportunities? You might want to talk about a book or something like that that you may or
So
may not
if
be
you're
writing.
listening and if you've liked any of this, if you're like, I would like more joy, I feel like I am the smushed leader, the one who is leading up and down, trying to manage these pressures from above and help my team and probably going home to the second shift.
Yeah.
I have a book for you. And so I am finishing up. We're doing like final things. It will be published in October. And so it's called Joyosity. And you can find out all the information as it develops over time at jennwhitmer.com/books. And Jenn with two N's.
Yep.
And so Jenn with two N's at jennwhitmer.com/books. And you can get on, if you would like to join what I'm calling the Joyosity Works Very Important Party. And so it is a place for you to help shape the message. There will be special weekly interviews and videos that aren't other places, and to get early access to the book. All of that kind of work will be there for you if you'd like to get in on that. And all of that is at jennwhitmer.com/books. And it is really a guide to helping leaders with tangible tools to not only heal workplaces, like places that have gone through difficulty, or you've gone through difficulty in another place and you don't want to bring that to the new place,
Yeah.
and to bring joy into the workplace that is productive, that is powerful, that is purposeful. And here's the thing, you will get profit,
Yeah.
because it is time and time and time again, that's what the data shows us, that those types of workplaces actually outperform the other ones that are toxic and only bottom line centered. And so this book is really that comprehensive guide to help you, the one that you'll like dog ear, mark up, pull off the shelf and use. And then when the team changes or you change, you're going to get it back out again, because it comes back. All of the
Yes.
stuff comes back. So
Yes.
that's the big exciting thing that's happening right now.
Oh man, this has been an incredible interview, incredible time spent. Your enthusiasm is infectious. Your conviction, like I just have no doubt that when you come into a workplace, or you come into an engagement, you bring hope and you bring joy and you bring tools for healing. I know that's what you do. What you do.
Well, in your superhero framework, that connection piece, being a
Yeah.
connector and having progress matter so much to me.
Yeah.
I never want to leave somebody the same. I don't know if
Right.
that's an old Girl Scout thing, you know, as brownies, we were taught to like leave the space better than we found it.
Yes.
But I want that. I want to connect with people. I want them to connect with each other, and that it's a little bit better
Yeah.
because we can't change it all at once, but it's at least a little bit better. And sometimes it's a transformation, and that's always what's exciting.
Well, that's a place where you and I really, I think, connect in terms of calling, right? Because I, you know, how would I measure success? And I even love that, like even what you talked about, the connection to purpose, like and that purpose, man, I wrote the quote down. That was such a good quote. Where is that quote? I have too many notes. But you talked about purpose being the result that happens in other people,
Yes.
right? So the
Purpose
purpose
isn't
isn't
what you
what you
do.
do,
It's what happens in other
it's
people
what
when you
happens in
do what you
other people as you do what you do,
Jade Simmons.
which for me is the tie is back to identity
Yeah.
because you do what you are,
Yes.
right? So you
Yeah.
find that lever to pull that's your unique lever and you just pull it till the wheels fall off, right? Um, and for me, it's also transformation, right? I want to see people transformed. I want to see people operating in their superpower.
Yeah.
You want to see people operating in purpose and
Yeah.
the joy that comes from operating in purpose.
And I think the thing that, you know, if you've got this little voice in the back of your head that's still like, well, that's kind of nice. Like, yeah, nice over there. This is not toxic positivity, I promise you.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest resistance that most people have isn't that they think that it's not going to work. It's that they think they're not worthy of joy.
Yeah.
And you're worthy. Like
Come on.
it's fine. It's fine. It's fine is going to kill our culture. It's fine. No, it's not fine. You're worthy of joy. It
Yeah.
can be more, and that's okay.
Yes. That's a great place to leave it because you know I think you are speaking to the heart of people that want to grow. I think people in general want to grow and they want to get better, and that's who you work with is organizations that want to grow and they want to get better, and are willing to change because we need to change, right? So thank you so much, Jenn, for spending time with me today, and for all my listeners. You know, I'm glad that you spent some time with us today.
Yes,
Have a
thank you
great
so
day.
much.
Bye, everybody.